Let's get the workshop going.
Okay, so just wanted to kind of continue from our last time. We had two areas that we wanted to continue moving down, and that was community engagement and facility and finance were the two that we were going to tackle here in the next several minutes. So as part of our community engagement, we had three statements: develop consistent ways to engage and communicate with the district stakeholders and taxpayers to highlight community partnerships through the district showcases and additional opportunities for open communication. Secondly, we wanted to improve the visibility of the school district as part of the Merton area to get people talking and asking questions about us. And then three, identify and utilize a single consistent brand for the district so we can be easily identified formally. So just again, some big questions. So what do we want to see the next steps? If anything, these three statements, what adjustments need to be made? I guess one of the things that we've done is we have facilitated district newsletter for the last several years. That came out of that too, twice a year. From that standpoint, we have tried to improve our visibility in some of our areas, being whether it be the National Night Out, some of the local parades, and things like that too from a visibility area. The branding, we have not really kind of touched the branding. Again, we kind of had one logo that we've been really trying to push out.
We have like 5 different logos that are in this building alone, right?
Well, trying to, when we do create something or when we do spirit wear or anything else like that, trying to be more consistent image from that too. So when PTO does field wear, things like that, we can try to use that one Mustang as well. So our letterhead looks different than what our mascot looks like. And we did that exercise about 5 years ago, so it's been a while. Quite some time. Okay, so then longer than that. So
Letterhead?
yeah, letterhead.
That was short, you have to use it.
Okay.
Very short. You've got a few years more than 5.
Yeah. So I guess did you want, I mean, just want to take each one of these statements, how we feel like we're communicating, additional. I know one of the things that we're trying to do, and we'll be working with PTO, they kind of already asked what's kind of next, is kind of getting some digital marquees out in front of the schools. I think again, trying to make a more presence in the community for people who are passing by. I know that's high on my list to hopefully get some more visibility, especially on Main Street in particular, because that's where, going through downtown Merton there as well. It's a big spot for commuters coming through our area too as well.
I think where we've lost it with our non-school families. And without a newspaper presence like we had years ago, we have to do something different to reach out to our non-school families.
That was kind of the theory of the newsletter. Because obviously newspapers aren't a thing anymore. I mean, a couple
Right.
of exist, but that's just.
But like things that go on at the school here, I think we could get some attendance from our non-school families if they knew about it.
Yeah, well, and there could theoretically also be other activities or ways of engaging community members, especially retired community members that are available during the day, to come and do things in the school, right? Come and read with kids or come and somehow be a part of it. There's probably something to say that too.
What I'm saying is we need to reach those people, and we're gonna have to be creative to do it.
We really don't have a census of who they are either. Outside of if they left us at one point, to go to a private homeschool or whatever, but if they're homeschool and private,
Their kids are graduating out of here.
Or are you talking about,
The people that don't have a direct tie.
the 80% who don't have a child here?
Right.
Got it, okay. I thought we were talking about how.
What's the pay for most all this? Well, and I guess, but to that end, like, I'm obviously not one of those people at the moment, but like, what do those people want from the school? Right, like, do they want anything from the school, or?
I think they'd like to know what's going on, what their investment is, what they're getting for their investment.
I mean, I guess in theory, like the marquee thing, digital signage might help with that too, just to, it would be easier to have more things up there that, this is going on, next week there's events people would come to.
I've gone the full cycle. In the beginning, we'd have a newspaper reporter come to every one of our meetings. They would report on the things that were happening here at Merton. Then after that died, it was up to the administrator to take things from our board meetings and send it to the newspaper and actually write an article for the newspaper, for those to go out to reach people. Now, if they're not following us on social media, not following us, people don't have a clue what's going on.
Maybe that begs the question, like, where do your peers get their information? Right?
Right?
Because obviously putting it on Twitter isn't gonna help
No,
solve that problem.
That's right. That's it.
Or Facebook or whatever
I
it
can
is.
say like for PTO events, I don't just put it on our PTO, I make sure it goes to the village and things like that, so we can take our communication to other people that can help us more. So like the fire department, they post stuff for us for PTO wise, so we partnership a little bit better. in certain ways.
Post where?
Like on their Facebook and.
Oh, that was the point, right? Like if you're trying to reach a community that's not using Facebook or anything anyway, like if it used to be newspaper, that's not going to be a viable option.
Right.
Because they're like, what is the source? Where do they go to get information? And that's where you would have to meet that.
That's what I'm saying, use your partnerships like the village, like go to the village, how do they get their information out? Maybe we start posting things at their meetings and things like that, at least have our papers out there that we have out.
We can bring a group of people together and start talking about community outreach. I mean, we certainly can do that. I mean, we've tried to partner, we've done a lot of things across the street, Pastor Mary Jane has been wonderful. It's like, hey, if you need facilities, we're here for you, and again, try to do that same thing with Pastor Schroff up on the hill there too as well. So, I mean, we can put a group of people together to kind of say, hey, what more can we do for community outreach? What are some other ideas, or what are some other possible partnerships? Or where else do we have to kind of go, and try to get in front of people? Whether that's at the community center, if it's, again, I think about where some of my in-laws go, they play bingo once a week. I don't know, going there and talking a little bit or asking for some time or any answers, questions or anything else like that too. So we don't have a lot of that here, but we can probably put a group together to kind of continue to follow up on that.
I think under communication too, for our parents to find things easier would be very helpful. I know that has been a theme I've heard a lot, that they can't find certain things on our website. And even just as simple as a school list, when those came out, people were hunting and trying to find it, and you have to search it from, but just making things easier for parents, especially on the things that they.
All right. And I know Phil's been talking a little bit about that. We're going to try to make a really conscious effort about on our website and things like that about getting information. And then, but what we've also heard is that information gets spread, kind of to Phil, to your point, in so many different avenues, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, our website. And again, and I think right now, Jane, Becca, you guys, when you do send something out, everything kind of goes out in multiple avenues and they're all connected together as well. But how do we continue to make things simple? I mean, ultimately, we want things to be simple. We don't want it to be hard for people to find information. Nature, that's one of the things that we talk about kind of.
Specifically as it relates to like Word
Documents and stuff like that.
information that's about Word discusses, I think that should be easy for people. I would hope that obviously people have paid attention more to the school board in the last couple of years than probably in a long time. And I'd be one of those guys. And it was always source of frustration. And you were great when I asked you a million questions and you gave me all the information. I just hope that as we push that information out, it makes it easier for people to search it, ask questions about it, and be involved in their school. It's only going to make us a better organization.
So let me do some follow-up with the board and our admin team on what I'm hearing is community outreach and easy parent communication, website, admin. things like that. Okay.
As far as the logo goes, I'm assuming there's 5 different ones in the school because
That was good.
they're
Oh,
old.
they probably took that.
But there's some old ones that maybe are stenciled on and we didn't paint over them or do something.
Like, so in the gym, right, the one on the floor is not the same as the one on the mats.
Sure.
Sure about that?
It's our horse. Mustang.
So,
But maybe, I guess maybe my point was the details of all, there's a couple of different logos of what looks like the same. Where? You know, the Merton with the horse face, yeah, Jay's got the old one, that doesn't have the horse face on it.
That's an old shirt.
Right, there's a couple of different versions of that thing that look similar but are not identical.
well, I mean, as far as like this, if the horse is what we want, just change the letterhead, or is there a reason behind that? I don't know.
We had it 10 years ago. But no, that's something that we can bring back.
Yeah, I just was
wanted to
asking
replace
it for the sake of asking.
Is there a
I'm sure there's history.
I think
There is
the
an
theory
issue.
was there's the athletic, like student community facing, and then
business
there's
side.
the business.
Yeah,
Correct.
Facing.
That's really where.
Whether that's
But I
a
think
one or not.
your point when we switched the letterhead was the old one was getting tired.
Well, the old one was just a picture of an old school.
I think wasn't their logo like what we're doing is for kids or something.
Lord, I have to go back to history.
You're right.
You're right.
I had my thought right. So
So something that we can continue to revisit too as well. It's fairly easy. It's a significant change when you talk about doing that. But everything's all digital now, so it's not like we've got all of these printed, right? So things can easily change just like that too as well. So we're looking more, we really have been trying to be really consistent.
Sometimes they're a little bit squished one way or another, and the circles aren't circles, they're ovals. But we detail minded to see these things, but I really got into it when we did the website the last time.
Yes. We did. So, well, let's move on to facilities and finance. The 3 statements that were made were develop and maintain facilities and ground management program that focus on a clean, safe environment. Evaluate core network infrastructures, technologies to support teaching and learning and district operations, and to enhance the financial operations to make them more efficient and transparent to stakeholders. And again, just some things that when we were planning this, it was as we move into a tighter than normal budget cycle, things are going to start to continue to get tight. We're kind of flatlining with enrollment a little bit with big classes leaving, and now we're going to start to kind of be on the uptick a little bit. Increased enrollment per our state funding formula. We get, it's a 3-year rolling average. And then ultimately with us starting to kind of plateau a little bit, some exemptions that we used to get to help kind of stagger and to kind of not stagger, but stabilize some of the ideas and the funding formulas are starting to go away because of our enrollment moving out. A couple things in regards to this. First of all, is obviously thank you to the beautiful spaces that we have that the board has worked really, really hard to. And Dean, I think you kind of highlighted it is this project wouldn't have come because we had a really short fix that we were going to be able to do, just redo the office, right? And then Phil, you kind of mentioned and the board and said, hey, let's step back and see if we want to do a facility analysis. And 2 years later, we paused the project. 2 years later, we've got some new spaces to be really proud of, and that's going to be great for kids and staff to be able to work in too as well. So we do continue to kind of update our learning environments with furniture, paint, carpet, new facilities. We've got some things that are on the radar. My radar is the exterior of this building, as well as our maintenance shed as well too. So we'll be bringing the board some possibilities, probably in October, as it relates to, as I continue to gather some more information on what possibilities can happen, and particularly with this building wrap as well, because the maintenance shed is steel, and everybody's just saying, Ron, just if you can wait a few more months on steel, things are going to start to kind of go down, we expect, as supply chain hopefully starts to pick up a little bit from that standpoint too as well. So, you know, and particularly technologies, again, we continue to try to engage not only our staff, but utilizing Gibbs and his network, and Dawn and April on the finance side. Again, how do we continue to streamline operations as we're moving forward too as well. So, and ultimately, I think, Andrew, to your point, is how do we continue to engage and basically be really as transparent as possible within our financial obligation or financial documents and things like that through, you know, open communication through board packets and stuff like that too as well. So we have tried to do some, you know, especially on the finance and facility side, to really continue, because this is the number one capital building that is in our community and costs the most for sure to operate certainly as well. So, I mean, on top of that, our solar continues to generate great numbers, great numbers. From that standpoint, we can give you guys an update on that too, as the quarter comes to an end here too as well.
So on the technology side, we're doing a new server this year, right? That was a big budgeted item. I believe that's still in the budget, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And then after that, where do we stand from a CapEx standpoint on technology?
Just really continuing to update, you know, classroom computers and things like that, but network infrastructure, that's pretty much our big one.
Yeah, I mean, that's primarily the big one. Part of what we did back when we did the 10-year facilities plan was kind of come up with a somewhat fluid technology plan that more or less initially based things off of end of life on certain projects or on certain technologies. And then we kind of just base it off of the needs of the district from there, as whether that moves up or if possible, if we can move it back a little bit, just depending on how the outlook is. Specifically, some things like this year, like our wireless controllers, I was able to push those off an additional 2 years just to free up some space so we could do other things the last 2 years. So it's a fluid thing, but I usually know the year prior what's going on.
And another big infrastructure thing was our generator, to continue to really make sure that district operations can continue, but ultimately from a shutting down standpoint too, making sure that that technology investment that we have made continues to operate at a very high level as well. So,
And we heard communication on the ESSER funds, because I know that could be used on buildings and improvement. Have we heard anything yet?
April, yes, we have. We've been getting some tentative numbers, kind of up and down. Do you want to kind of give a little update on ESSER?
Yeah, so for ESSER 2, we've been allocated $120,000 from the state. And we had to, all districts that qualified for the additional ESSER funds across the state had to submit in-person learning reports. So we did that. And that was the deadline. We did it way before, but I think the deadline was just last Friday on that. So we won't hear anything from DPI. I would say for at least a month, if not a bit longer. And then ESSER 3, we've been allocated a preliminary number of $268,000. And again, that is also tied to in-person learning. So that we were hopeful, you know, because we were here all year. So we're hopeful that both of those numbers will climb. I don't want to say drastically, but we're hoping to get.
There are some things that need to occur with those. Again, there has to be some hearings, some public comment and things like that, and that'll be coming too as well. But Andrew, to your point, when we take a look at some of our remaining facility infrastructure that is needed, and particularly you know, the HVAC, we've got great airflow. We've got some very loud and old units that continue to meet all of the specifications that we need. But Mr. Zurcher in the back there, he's in charge of making sure that they're up and running. But the number one thing when we start talking to our teachers who are down, basically in the exterior in our corridors is they're loud. They're just loud. So we've got that big on our priority list, particularly utilizing some of these ESSER dollars, because the ESSER dollars were designed to basically offset any new state money So we're able to kind of massage the way we use ESSER funds, in particular to free up funds in other areas to meet other financial obligations as well too. So, so again, we're looking at least probably more likely 400,000 between 2 and 3. And again, that'll be continuing to move towards our facility improvement plan down the 10-year road as well.
What is our flexibility with the facility relative to what we will experience Wednesday when we have the direct impact of all the students being moved to one campus? Because we talked about a lot of things in theory, but now it's going to be in practice. So are we remaining flexible with that too? If we have to make adjustments?
Certainly, when we start to talk, when we talk about long-term planning, about towards our academic weights, certainly, yes. We do have a tentative plan. One of the things that the board worked really hard, we had phase 1, which is what you see around here, the 75 section. We do have a phase 2 plan as well, which we continue to take a look at. And that's basically how do we continue to, again, modernize a building. And we've done the best we can with, paint, carpet, but do you want to do, for instance, a big difference as you walk in is just the VCT top, so what are some things that we can continue to do or remain flexible given some enrollments, some new spaces that might be needed? I know we talked about a learning lounge for 5th grade or 6th grade. Those plans are certainly there too as well. So as we start to plan and as we get the facility team together as it relates to probably how we continue to utilize those ESSER funds, but what's next for the district, certainly we will continue to take a look at how do you, again, because this looks like a new building. And when you walk up the stairs, we don't want you to be like, disappointed when you walk there too, because we do want to have tremendous pride down our academic places too as well. So ultimately we are going to come out, obviously this is a $2.3 million remodel. We're coming in on budget, which is great. And we still have a healthy fund balance. We certainly do. But we want to continue to, this is where we can work on with April and her team about what are those projections. And I feel that we've started to talk about is we don't want to stuck it. If in fact we do have to make potential cuts in the future, we know what our budget numbers are going to be for next year, but how do we continue to be prepared for the future and yet meet all the demands academically, socially, and emotionally for our students moving forward and do the best we can for them too. So we are still a very, very healthy school district, financially, academically, all those curiosity. We continue to really meet our mission, certainly. Okay, anything else on facilities and finance? Then I think we're good. We want to take about a 5-minute break to get reorganized here. I know we've got an audience. If everybody please, Jen Sesbeck is back there. If you could please sign in as well. We'd love to know who's here and things like that. And there is an opportunity to speak to the board. I will come back in about 4 or 5 minutes and we'll talk about community forum.
We should differentiate.
The infectious, right, in America, the American Medical Association, the American College of Physicians, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Academy of Family Physicians, the Association of American Medical Colleges, and many more. Per the CDC, as of August 4th, 2021, they are recommending universal indoor masking for all teachers, staff, students, and visitors to K-12 schools, regardless of their vaccination status. This is because many schools serve children under the age of 12 who are not yet eligible for vaccination. This guidance emphasizes implementing layered prevention strategies to protect students, teachers, staff, visitors, and other members of their households, and supports in-person learning. That's the goal, in-person learning. The American Medical Association, July 27th, strongly supports the updated CDC recommendations, which calls for universal masking in areas of high or substantial COVID-19 transmission and in K-12 schools. Per the COVID dashboard today, Waukesha County is categorized as having very high case activity. That is as of this morning. The American Academy of Pediatrics strongly advocates that all policy considerations for school COVID-19 plans should start with the goal of keeping students safe and physically present in school. Again, that is the goal, and we can all agree to that. They are recommending the implementation of several coordinated interventions to greatly reduce the risk, including all students older than 2 years and all school staff wearing face masks in school. The Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, in their COVID-19 infection control and mitigation measures for Wisconsin schools for the 2021 and 2022 school year, speaks to several issues. First one being face coverings. It is recommended by the Department of Public Instruction that decisions about face coverings be based upon the recommendations of the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Centers for Disease Control, and the Wisconsin Department of Health Services, all three of which recommend universal masking in school settings. One more. The DPI recommends to school districts that all students older than 2 and all school staff wear face masks at school regardless of their vaccine status. Physical distancing. CDC recommends people who are not fully vaccinated, which is all children under the age of 12, maintain physical distance of at least 6 feet from other people who are not in their household. There has been data, the CDC changed that to 3 feet of physical distancing. However, for districts who choose not to adopt universal masking, a distance of at least 6 feet is recommended between students, teacher, staff, and between teacher, staff who are not fully vaccinated. If we are not disclosing the vaccination status of staff and teachers, which I understand, then a universal 6-foot distance should be maintained per recommendations. Screening test. The DHS is offering convenient school-based testing for teachers, staff, and students and their families for the 2021-2022 school year. I haven't seen anything about that or heard about that, hoping that maybe that could be touched on at some point tonight if that's an offering that will be available. I also wanted to ask about quarantine clarification in the student letter, or I'm sorry, the family letter that was sent out several weeks back. There was a statement made about quarantine. After reviewing the Waukesha County and Department of Health and Human Services release regarding the topic, which was dated May 6, 2021, I found that statement to be misleading as worded. The amended quarantine guidance reads as follows. Quarantine guidelines will relax to allow students and adults possibly exposed to COVID-19 in school settings to continue in-person learning if the following conditions are met. Number 1, the school has committed to COVID-19 prevention policies, which include the following: mask wearing, implementing strategies to maximize distance, hand washing, ventilation, and management of students exhibiting symptoms. The other 2, close contacts remain symptom-free and agree to self-monitor, and close contacts strongly consider getting tested on day 6 or 7 after exposure. I'm hoping Mr. Ross can also speak to clarify that point as well. Since the district is choosing not to have a universal masking policy, it seems that the health department would probably not have made that recommendation. Current trends, kids are getting sick. Kids are getting sicker. Kids are getting sicker. Delta's different. It's different. For the AAP, 827, more than 180,000 new pediatric COVID-19 cases were reported during the week of August 19th. That is nearly 50% higher than the week before. That is per the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Children's Hospital Association. There's been a 4-fold increase from the week ending July 22nd. Children have made up 22% of new cases last week. While symptomatic and severe cases in children remain less common than other age groups, we have seen increases in pediatric cases and hospitalizations over the last few weeks. This is the case locally. This is the case locally. Many children's hospitals and intensive care units are at or near capacity, with kids waiting in emergency departments because there are not enough beds to admit them or enough hospital staff to safely care for them. Again, I can confirm this is the case locally. In summary, if the goal is to have our students remain safely learning in person this school year, the board should reconsider what measures are being put into place to mitigate risk for our students and school staff. By all accounts, last year was a success in terms of providing safe in-person instruction with minimal spread. It was great. Why remove the mitigation measures that helped it be successful? It seems completely counterintuitive. The guidance and recommendations from public health authorities and medical providers and organizations are very clear. The question remains if you would choose to follow those expert opinions or take unnecessary risks with the health and safety of our children. Mr. Russ, could you please speak to the following points? What are the current district plans for handling positive cases? What type of notifications will be made to families? If quarantine is not required for close contacts, will contact tracing be performed? And who's in charge of doing that? And is it my understanding that virtual schooling will not be available during illness or quarantine? And is that going to be the case going forward? Thank you.
That place in the agenda for addressing this question?
I can, unless you want me to do it now.
Well, my assumption is anyone else who wants to talk probably wants to talk about COVID, so you may as well talk about
I
it.
can talk about it now. I mean, that's
Because that
fine.
may mitigate
That's fine.
or spur other questions.
That's fine.
Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah. So a couple things. First of all, testing on site, we have decided not to test on site for students who come. And for us to make what that means is basically we would have COVID test kits on site where we would have our nurse, Gail Ward, we would make a phone call and say, would you like your child tested or not? We then would test, you get the outcome. Again, we're not in 24 hours, whether it's rapid or anything else like that. We have decided that we did not want to become a testing facility and that we felt like it's a parent choice. And if a parent wanted to go get tested, there are several avenues to be able to do that. And additionally, that a negative COVID test is not needed to return to school as it relates to whether you are positive with COVID or if you were quarantined based on a direct contact and things like that. So if we have a child who comes to school exhibiting symptoms, we're going to say, it's time to go home. Here we go. It's again, we are going to self-monitor, and if they come and if they're exhibiting symptoms that we are not aware of as it relates to whether it's an underlying health condition or because whether it be asthma or anything, again, working with families, we then would make that phone call and say, hey, we've got to send that child home until the symptoms improve, until they're better for 24 hours, and away we go from that standpoint too as well. Notification. If in fact at the primary school, it's real simple. If we have someone who tests positive in Merton primary school, we send a letter home to the class. That's the way that's going to work. As it relates to 5th and 6th grade, we know that they shift kids around and that they have several opportunities to intermingle with 5th and 6th grade and in a lot of different classes. We will send a letter both to 5th and 6th grade because that is their direct contact, basically sometime throughout the day, and or for 7th and 8th grade. Again, we will send that letter to 7th and 8th grade as well. Again, because it's very difficult to highlight a specific child who is in an algebra class and really, because again, that person goes from class to class to class. And during the elective class, if they have choir or if they have a band or whatever it might be, again, that's why we'll just be notifying families to please make sure that they just monitor symptoms, that we've had a positive case. And several school districts last year did that too as well. So again, expect letters home, but again, we do want to notify parents as much as they can that that's going to be happening too as well. So that's that type of notification. Contact tracing, we are not going to be starting off the year with contact tracing right now. So we have decided, again, just in working with other school districts and the health department, again, we know Delta is different, 2 times, possibly a little more. But again, we don't want to quarantine a child where we want to make sure, again, we want to take a look at the data because we didn't have school-wide spread last year. We didn't have school-wide spread at the end of the year when masks became optional. We didn't have school-wide spread during summer schools, and these are very common things across the county at this time. So that's where the contact tracing, if we have to go back to contact tracing and notifying individuals, our administrative team, just like we did a year ago, will continue to conduct that area as well too. So again, contact tracing will be ready for it if in fact we have to pivot to that type of contact tracing for students and staff as well. Virtual school, finally, correct. Right now, we are going to start the year off with no virtual option. So if a child does come down with COVID or COVID symptoms, we will be doing just like we kind of did in the past at this point until they're symptom free. Again, obviously, if you have COVID, you have your isolation period. We will go back to, again, classroom teachers, putting stuff together and trying to continue that education throughout their COVID isolation period as well. We're not going to go synchronous learning. We're not going to have live webcams going like we've done in the past. We're just going to continue to kind of start the year with this idea that we're just going to kind of get the work going home. We got Google Classroom now that's going to continue to be updated. Individual teachers may decide to, reach out. Whether that be during the prep period, before school or after school, but virtual learning as we knew it a year ago will not continue for students who are isolated or quarantined for either direct contact by choice and or their symptoms of COVID. So One other comment, again, I just got off the phone with, this was a Wednesday, right? I have weekly conversations with Waukesha County Health Department, Waukesha County Executive, and all the other Waukesha County superintendents. We specifically asked, how are pediatric hospitals, how are hospitals doing? Are they being overwhelmed? And they are saying no. They are saying no. Their data that they show, again, they're in contact with these people. I don't have direct contact with Pro Health, Children's, Aurora, and all the other ones that are here, but we are relying on public health to give us that information. And right now, public health is telling us that there is not an uptick in, this was Wednesday. Again, we know everything's fluid, but it is not affecting hospitals at this moment as of Wednesday. So I think that kind of answers a lot of the questions from them. Yeah, there's a question back there.
I wanted to clarify when you're saying letters home, is this like old snail mail? That
No,
people
it's
find
even, no, we're not gonna, it'll be a skyward letter from your child's classroom teacher and or to say, hey, we have a COVID positive today.
Can it say, I mean, in more details, like, I know you can't give the child's name, but can you say this grade, so like that my kid can maybe figure out, as opposed to just this, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, with all this movement back and forth, because that kind of, it just seems sketchy, like maybe I was next to you and sitting right here all day. And maybe I
Right,
wasn't.
we are trying not to, again, we want to protect the privacy of children.
I like to
We do.
protect the health of my family and my patients when I go to work.
And what we're gonna do then is we would send a class, so if you're in a first grade classroom, let's just pick one, Miss Bly's class. Miss Bly would, if we have a positive COVID, Miss Bly would send a communication out to her families that says we have had a positive COVID case in the classroom. Your child might have come in direct contact with the person. Please continue to monitor symptoms, and that's what we're asking families to do from a direct contact standpoint, instead of quarantining either that class or you know the kids who are around there, because we did that last year. Several school districts did that last year, and the data supported that it wasn't
So
being
last year
contracted.
was different, you had our children masked and
Right.
distance in the classroom,
Right.
which you are
Yep.
not doing at all,
And-
either one.
And right now, when we take a look at the data that was occurring at the end of the school year, I do not have information that I can recommend to the school board to change or reverse that course at this time. I don't.
I can speak to where the public was, and May cases were horribly down. I work in a hospital setting, and we have had to restart testing patients and reverse a lot of our policies because the cases are surging. Because we did relax them for a little bit, much after it was all relaxed here and stuff, with extreme caution. And now they're going that way because there's more cases. So saying that's what we did in May and it's fine for May for 2 weeks, that's great. But the world was a different place in May than it is right now. Same with summer school, you had 1,000 students here, that's wonderful, for 3 hours a day. Most of those classes that my kids have taken summer school have been outside whenever possible. The weather is nicer, there's smaller amounts there, you don't have everybody packed in here like you do now, because there are no longer a 5th grade hallway here, so we have more students up there next to each other all close by. It's a different world right now than what you guys did in May.
We will adjust if needed.
What data,
So
if any, would support, and this is a question, I guess, to Ron and to the rest of the board. What data would be required to have the group recommend masking and social distancing again?
Great question, Phil.
Like, there must, you know, okay, so let's say we go to the school year as planned and no one gets sick. Well, that's great, then we don't have to do anything. All right, well, let's say 1% of our student population gets sick. Well, okay, that's a bummer, but we probably wouldn't do anything. All right, what if half the population is sick, or some number, right? There's some metric, there's some information, there's some piece of data that would say, all right, this is going bananas, we need to, you know, change our course here. Like what, how is that decision made?
So Phil, to your point, as a health system administrator here locally, there's a lot of planning that goes on when certain metrics in a community are met, whether that's community infection rates, whether that's positivity rates, et cetera. Has this board taken any steps to plan as things escalate or de-escalate, and by what metric? Because preparedness costs us nothing, right? Reactiveness can be very profound on a cost of our students under 12 years old. Above 12 years old that can be vaccinated, I think it's a very different conversation for me personally. However, as a health system administrator, locally, preparedness is not going to cost this organization any amount of money. And I think it's worth having a conversation. What are the metrics? When they hit them, what do we do? So that parents can become more comfortable with the what if conversation of, if there is an outbreak, what will we do, rather than be caught flat-footed, similar to being caught flat-footed last year when we reduced remediation plans at the end of the year. The community environment infection rates today are different than May. Over the summer, they were incredibly low. It's like, it's playing with a loaded hand, right? The community infection rates are increasing right now. And the only population that's not protected is under 12. So people who can make that choice can choose your own mitigation strategies. Our community here, 63%, so 2/3 of the people at this desk statistically have chosen protection for yourselves. I applaud you. The 0 to 12, we have no one that has any protection at this point. And I think that's a point of consideration, that when given the opportunity and choice to protect yourself, if you choose to do so, great. If you choose not to, great. 0 to 12 do not have a choice. So the question is, what are the metrics? Can we formulate a plan around some reasonable metrics? And how do we escalate and de-escalate based on those metrics? And is that something the board can commit to creating, to help ease some of our parents?
I think to answer your initial question, the board collectively has done no work in regards to establish a plan.
Right.
I can't speak specific, to what administration has done, because some of that, happens behind the scenes. So to some extent with, your group conversations that you have every week and all that. We had those conversations a year ago now, right? To start talking about what if, how do we develop these metrics, or what are our metrics that we look at? That wasn't something that we wanted to do at the time, I guess.
Is that something people are willing to commit to?
Well, I guess that would be a conversation for the board when, each individual, but the action of that has to happen during the board meeting from that standpoint too. I have tried to stay away from a hard, firm, this is what happens, okay? When you take a look,
Tell me why.
when you take a look at, there's a local school district that had a huge significant spike. That occurred in, in nursing home and assisted living home, senior living, right? Where that aspect of the community didn't have an impact on their student body, right? So when you take a look at the data, and that's really where what we're trying to do is take a look at the data, the best data that we get from Waukesha County. Some of it's available online, some of it's not. But when we go to a hard firm to say, Ron, why don't you just say when it hits 15, right? When we hit the average daily 7-day average for 3 consecutive days is 15, then this is going to happen. Where did those 15 come from? Sure. Right, and for us, obviously, we're an Arrowhead community, which our kids are intermingling with everybody, so that's why I feel strongly about, and they're not just going to give us our Merton data. They have to, from a school district standpoint. So I've stayed away from a hard 15 for 3 consecutive days. Now, we have mitigation steps. So for instance, first of all, our administrative teams have these conversations, right? We have said, okay, so if it gets flu-like, right, and would 20%, for instance, let's just say 20% of a class, that is going to trigger a significant mitigation step, and we would be ready to pivot, whether they were shutting down that classroom or that grade level, wherever we see that, because this board and our administrative team, and it goes back to Jennifer, what you were saying, in-person learning is huge. We believe that is where our students will be best learned and their development all the way across. So we as an administrative team will be ready to pivot when we need to, whether that's, again, because the 2 big mitigation steps we have is what? Distancing and masks. Yeah. Those are the 2 ones that we have. We know we can spray everything we want, hand sanitizer. Those things are just good for infection. We had, so we're going to continue a lot of those things. Try to stagger stops and start times. But when we take a look at a metric, we have some internal metrics, but if we said 15 for 3 consecutive days, where did those 15 come from? So
Would you not have that
The health department may not give you the information, but you know how many people.
Oh, then we also take a look at our internal, right, and we control that internal data, we certainly do. So if we're sending a letter home day after day after, that means we got spread. That means we may have to trigger something, we're gonna have to do something different. But what happens in second grade could be very different than what happens in 6th or 7th grade. Right, so we're trying to, from an administrative standpoint, again, if the board wants to put some hard metrics together, I have always stepped aside and saying, I don't want to live in black and white. Okay, we're a small enough organization where we can pivot. We have a small enough staff where we can all of a sudden go from point A to point B because we are a smaller operation compared to, you're right, when you talk a look at Sussex right down the road, you take a look at, they have said, if it gets to 10, we will consider, and we will consider masking for a specific population if we see something that's occurring in the school. Because you have your community, then you also have your school. So that's why we try to look at multiple data points. The number one will be when our kids come walking through the door, right? What happens when they walk through the door? Do we have a COVID spread? And then we're gonna have to respond accordingly, not wait for this 7-day metric or anything. We're gonna be able to pivot very quickly. And there's some things in mitigations that we'll talk to the board about, tonight, about what kind of leeway do you want to give us? Okay, because we can call an emergency meeting anytime and get people here in 24 hours. If we need to go on a universal mask mandate, we don't have all this red tape that we need to go through. We can pivot very, very quickly. So again, I try not to live in black and white, given the size of our organization, given our community, and really taking a look at what do the numbers show, and then we can respond accordingly.
Yeah, so definitely understood, from a metric perspective, I think that would be a worthy exercise. Similar to how our students don't pass or fail tests from I feel statements. We need metrics and some kind of guidelines, right, around what happens and when it happens. But I would also ask the board, I don't know any of you personally, I apologize. Are any of you medical professionals that are qualified to help formulate such a plan? Or would you like some of the community members who are medical professionals to help weigh in on that? I'm sure that many people will be glad to offer some of their expertise if you guys would accept that as part of that planning process. Just as we trust you all as, our teachers as the professionals of educating our children, there's a lot of expertise in rooms like this that should be parlayed into your decision-making processes, and I encourage you to do so.
I obviously can't speak for anyone else, but I'm not a professional by any sense of the word. But yeah, I board, we go down the road to have people that actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah, actually, I just one question to follow up, because I actually don't know the answer to this. Who makes the decision? Is it the board that makes the decision on wearing masks or social distancing, or is it Franz who makes the decision?
It comes down to the board makes the decision. Recommendations come from the administrator.
Okay, thank you. Second question then would be, what data are you using to make that decision? Because based on Jennifer's statement, pretty much every single reputable industry standard is recommending that you guys make the decision of masking children, social distancing. You guys have chosen to not do that. So I'm just curious, what are you guys using to make that decision?
I think you have to, can I,
What's that?
can I answer his?
Just figuring it out, like, it feels like.
We're giving parents choices to mask. Our staff choices. The adults can make the choices for their children, and the adults that are our staff and employees here can make the choice for themselves on the mask.
So you punted the decision to the parents?
Well, I personally like to have the choice for me whether I wear a mask or not, whether I go into a restaurant or some kind of a place of business. I like having my own choice.
Children don't understand the repercussions of listening to their parents
Could
and
you
not.
speak up just a hair, Jennifer? I can't hear you.
Right now. Sorry. You as an adult may or may not understand those full repercussions of your choice to mask or not, or get vaccinated or not, but our children don't. They don't understand disease, they don't understand how things spread, or that being really close to my friend is gonna harm me or grandma or whoever else I pass it on to. Okay, very educated adults barely understand it. if you ask most of us medical professionals. So if we're gonna leave it up to a kid listening to,
We want
Well,
the
my sons
parents
aren't
to
doing
make the choice
right,
for the children.
and how often have you ever asked your child to do something and they haven't done it? You know, I think that's what a lot of parents are struggling that are in favor of the mask because peer pressure gives in or excuses or whatever, good child, bad child, whatever, they're gonna do what they do all day long and I can't see it, watch it. You know,
I would hope our staff would be reinforcing right from day one that the children should be following the direction of their parents.
So what would need to change for you guys to take action? So you guys are deciding not to take action, it's up to the parents. What would need to change for you to take action?
Personally, I
And to
would,
give the advice of every medical professional that Jennifer said, nationally and locally. What would we need to do to follow the advice of all the professionals that she cited, that physicians within our community have cited? You've received notes from those physicians with cited resources and data from today. Local doctors, local pediatric physicians are giving you the data. That's why we're asking, are any of you physicians or working within medical fields? We know at least 5 people in here currently that are doctors that do treat these patients day in and day out. And why are their voices not being heard or even be asked, asking them any questions? And how do we get to the point of Jeremy's question? What is the metric in which we will finally revisit the situation of having some kind of mitigation, spacing, or masks, and maybe both? Why did we get rid of everything all at the same time? That's what I'm trying to figure out tonight when I leave is, how did you arrive at this decision? When every site that I have read says, going back to school, these are the things that we should follow. We're not following any of them. So how did you arrive at that decision? I think that's what the majority of us want to know.
I would follow the lead from the information that Ron would be getting from the county on making my decision.
Okay, I'll let the rest.
We had an individual last May, when we made a decision about masks, come in here and talk to us about how he had done the research on the cotton masks. And I don't see a lot of people following the research that's been done on the cotton masks.
You don't see people following CDC guidelines, so it's okay, since someone's not doing the right thing, and for everyone to just not do the right thing. We're supposed to set an example for our children, and the CDC is stating that if you're not vaccinated, you wear a mask. And that we do all of the mitigation factors that Jennifer stated, and we're not doing that. There are plenty of unvaccinated people who are choosing not to wear a mask, we know that. Because we're seeing.
I believe you're absolutely right.
We are not doing the right thing. We are not following the guidelines.
So I'd love to hear from the others though, because so Dean, clearly, if Waukesha County says you need to put a mask on, you're gonna put a mask on. So what about the rest of the people?
Sure, so I spoke with a doctor this weekend, and who's been in practice 25, 30 years, and asked him specifically the severity of it for children. And he equated it to the flu, that the severe cases are few and far between. As it relates to the American Academy of Pediatrics and the CDC, I have tried to read as much as I can over the last 30 days because I anticipated this to be a very interesting meeting with a lot of different voices being heard. And I have to be honest, I find that the information is contradictory. For instance, the American Academy of Pediatrics, this was as of 8/19, but I looked at their weekly report that they put out. In that report, if you read it, it says, and I'm going to quote, "The available data indicate that COVID-19 associated hospitalization and death is uncommon in children. And at this time, it appears that severe illness due to COVID-19 is uncommon in children." Okay? To me, that's contradictory. And I'm not a medical professional. So to me, that's contradictory when they're saying it's uncommon.
So what do you need to see for you to make the decision to take these preventative measures? Is it your doctor friend would need to say you should do that, or is it a certain industry standard that you're looking at?
So I don't know what that answer is. As it relates to masks, there was a CDC study done that I found on their website. It took me about 3 hours to find it. And in it, I'm trying to find what it said. The 21%, this was looking at 90,000 students, 169,000 K-5 schools in Georgia. Anybody familiar with it, medical? Okay. I have a copy of it here. I can show it to you afterwards. In that document, it says this: the 21% lower incidence in schools that required mask use among students was not statistically significant compared with schools where mask use was optional. It also stated that ventilation, movement of air, bringing in fresh air, had a 48% lower incidence, case incidence in the schools. And so, again, I'm not a professional, but when I'm trying to research and look at this, the information to me seems contradictory. So what would I need to see? I would look to Ron in the county as to what's happening in our schools, what's happening in the village of Merton, the town of Merton. Arrowhead as a Arrowhead district as a whole. I think I would look at that.
I mean, look, I appreciate you guys actually thinking and answering these questions, because it's important for us to know this is the health of our kids, right? Like, honestly, I could care less what subject you're teaching them. I'm more concerned about their health at this point. And so I appreciate you at least reflecting and thinking about what would have to change in order for me to rethink that. Well, I'm curious what the others.
And that's my decision-making is rooted in the information that we're getting locally from Ron, minimally meeting once a week with the health department.
Okay.
Because of the size of our district, because of spread, and I'm not saying that whatever we discuss or decide now, like that nothing would change my mind in the future. But where we are right here, right now, locally, that's how I'm making my decision. It's based on what we're getting from the health department.
The other piece I should mention is, because we do meet weekly, once a week on Wednesdays, right? But as superintendents, we have kind of taken this little vow to say, hey, if something's happening in your schools, let us know. So we knew all year if there was an outbreak in, say, Elmer, Sussex, Pewaukee, Richmond, Arrowhead. We knew all that before our meeting on Wednesday. So we're in constant communication with other, particularly feeder schools, in particular Arrowhead, but obviously our neighbors of Menominee Falls, Sussex, Pewaukee, Elmbrook, Oconomowoc are people who, you know, are joining us too as well too. So that really helps us understand about what's happening, what might be coming through, ups and downs. But obviously September 1st is going to come, and we're going to share information amongst our schools too as well before those Wednesday meetings.
All right, so I like 400 things in my head right now. We'll start with the first one. So based on the communication you and I had run about what was happening this year for COVID in schools, you said that we're basing part of your decision on the vaccination rate within the county. And that's why masks in the county isn't recommending everything. In our actual village, there's less than 50% of people vaccinated. In Lisbon, Hartford, Heartland, town of Merton, those are the three that feed in, I think. They're not at 60%, they're in the low 50%. And your reasoning was the county's at almost 70. Our region is not, which makes me feel insecure with volunteers coming into the building.
You don't have the numbers of the people that had COVID.
It's no different than the vaccination, having kids is
I'm not making
COVID
it, but
could all not have immunity. That is not proven to be a long-lasting immunity. It is luck of the draw if you get any sort of long-lasting immunity from COVID.
I guess, Jennifer, I'm not making any of my decisions
decisions
based on vaccination rate.
seeing in the data that's coming.
No, I'm just sharing that as information. That's true. Vaccination rate, I don't, because like it's pointed out, 2/3 aren't eligible for it. And only 40% of the ones 12 to 18 are, and again, ultimately, that's just information, just sharing.
So are you gonna require volunteers to be vaccinated?
No,
No.
they don't have to be masked or vaccinated.
Teachers to be
I'm
vaccinated.
just joking,
or wear
that's
masks.
a good idea.
The teachers.
We don't even require teachers to be vaccinated or wear masks. If the teacher is not vaccinated, they're not required to wear masks, correct?
Correct.
So we're not following the CDC's recommendations, then, correct?
No, they're not.
We're not following any of them. I just don't have an answer. I don't get it. I don't get why we're not following the recommendations. Because of Waukesha County data.
know, or you're just asking to try
No, I really don't know. I'm still trying to leave with an answer, to feel good about this. If the answer is Waukesha County data and not,
No, so.
Trying to find something that's not political,
Listen.
I'm trying to find where it lies.
I don't get
I
it.
mean, I guess what I meant by that is, it's not necessarily that it's based on the decision from, collecting data from a scientific paper, right? It's based on what people's feelings are and their opinions based on what they hear and see in their lives, right?
Yeah,
And that's right when making decisions for my child though. That's
I
that's
understand.
difficult.
I understand our passions, right? We all, and it does rub us a little, well, at least me, Ron, when you say our health of our kids. Honestly, we care about the health of our kids. But we are looking at the data. We're not looking at, I lose my train of thought because I'm already getting all fired up, sorry. But I honestly, when you ask me what's gonna change my mind is when I hear that our school is being affected. To me, that's important, to know that it's gonna change the way we're gonna educate our kids. And it could go even down to virtual someday, it might go that way. I wanna look at it at our school. That's what's important to me, is the local part.
So Waukesha County comes out tomorrow and says, it's our recommendation that you mask and use social distance within the schools. You guys will immediately.
They already have a recommendation.
Yeah,
It's on-
No,
I just want to be
That's
clear.
not local enough.
And Jeremy, just so you know,
No, no.
again, I've been very clear when people have asked, so you are going against Waukesha County. Yes, Waukesha County Health is in line with all of the
I
lines.
I just heard 3 of the 5 people up there say they will follow Waukesha County guidelines.
And what we're.
And now you're saying Waukesha County guidelines is the social distance.
I heard
We're not
that
gonna do that.
information from Waukesha County. It continued different information.
Okay, so then maybe we need to go around the horn again and really dig in on this, because I'm super confused now. Now I feel like we're just flying by the seat of our pants. I was a little comforted when we said we're all gonna follow the more local data. But now, the more local data is actually saying to do this, and we're still saying, no, we don't wanna do that.
Waukesha County, the state of Wisconsin, the CDC, since March, or I'm maybe gonna say April of 2020 has recommended masking, universal masking.
Okay,
They have not changed that recommendation in schools since April of 2020.
so, okay, let me rephrase the question then.
Right, so
Why are we not following that mandate? Because I just asked, and they all said Waukesha County. So,
No, I said specifically when the metrics are affecting us, not Waukesha County, not an outbreak in the city of Waukesha, shutting our school down.
okay, so you actually need people to be
How did
infected.
you perceive my answer?
I thought we were gonna take a look at local data. Waukesha County gives us data every week. So for instance, I can come to this group and say, hey, we are seeing a tremendous amount of children hospitalizations. Okay, Waukesha County data, again, shared with me last Wednesday. Again, I'm only as good as when that data on Wednesday, because that's the only day that I see that compared to the data that I possibly can pull from the Arrowhead feeders and or other K-12 districts.
Okay, so it's not the recommendation, it's your interpretation of what the data they provide.
And I've shared data, right, correct.
Okay, but you haven't clarified what would give your recommendation to the
Correct.
board.
Right,
So I'd love to know that, because a
Right.
lot of people are looking at you in terms of giving a recommendation. You're getting this data, you're interpreting it somehow. And either you're making some justification on, hey, I know the recommendation is this, but nobody's died yet, nobody's in the hospital yet, so we're not gonna make any changes. We need to know what will provide you to recommend to the board that we mask and social distance.
Before Ron answers that, remember, at the end of that school year, Ron recommended to the board to keep masks to the end of the school year.
Yes,
Correct.
which we appreciated
Look,
recommendations.
I totally agree with Rod in that statement, but now I'm more focused on like September 1st, what are we doing? So just maybe do your best to answer that question.
Are there any other topics?
Why would we go away from this topic? Everybody's here to talk talk about Untitled Chapter kids. Why, when I asked them a simple question, let's get this answer first.
Ron, can I get a comment?
Well, yes, please.
Can we please hear the answer first?
I guess I kind of answered that a little bit before, but it's not, I don't have a black and white number. I really don't, but I'm gonna take a look at what's happening all the way down, micro level, all the way down to each classroom. I will, and because we'll make that determination, because you're right, I could come and say, hey, for instance, every second grader is gonna go universal mask. May have to happen, given the information, I recommend it, given the information if we see spread amongst second graders, for instance. So.
Okay.
So Ron, if I-
That's
Ron, if I
something
could-
airborne, so
Ron, if I
I
could-
continue to cycle it all.
Ron, if I could- Ron, I'm gonna
say
stand there just myself, I'm Jason, some people are not introducing themselves, I have close friends that are sitting over here, I appreciate everyone's thoughts on the topic, it's very tough, I commend the board on their work, I was here in May when the tough decision was made to unmask our kids. I agree with a lot of things that are being said tonight, however, I think that some of the metrics that we're forgetting about is the data of the constituency here in Merton. There was a reason why this board was influenced. It was the taxpayers and the constituents who overwhelmingly voted to unmask our kids that night.
Have we taken a poll?
So we have not taken a poll, but I'm talking about the overwhelming influence that they had on this board. I appreciate the work of the board. They're in an impossible position. I'm just saying that some of the data that we're forgetting at the time in May was the overwhelming feedback that was coming to them. I spoke with them all, they know who I am. Was they wanted the masks off their children and left to parental choice. And that's the direction they took. That's all I wanted to say.
No, that's
I'll let you go. We have a board meeting you have to do tonight. Last word.
So really quick, obviously, we all feel that distancing and masking is a good thing. Masking, much more heated topic. Can we start with distance in the classroom and just see how that goes? Children have not been together at this level all summer inside, okay? Every time we bring children together, you get some spread of some sickness. Okay, that's gonna hit you and send kids home, and there's no way for them to continue to learn as well seamlessly, like last year when they had virtual for those couple of days when you were waiting out things. Can we just start with distancing in public and see how that goes as we bring all these kids together that are gonna spread whatever form of germ they have, is COVID or just a regular cold or whatever, just to keep our kids in school in person a little longer, since there is no other great option for them at home when they've got the sniffles and something else, because they just came to school to learn. Even if it's not COVID, I think distance, is anybody against that? It's much less controversial than your mask for your sitting at your desk. You have us all distanced here really nicely, pre-planned with chairs. Why can't we do that for our children? And at least have one mitigation besides hand washing, since it's an airborne thing anyways, right? To help them out. Is that so hard? Would anybody be on board with that one? Just at least one thing to walk away from with that tonight?
Outdoor seating for lunch when weather permits.
Windows open as much as possible, all those other little simple things. I mean, I know I love it when the teacher's like, oh, we got to go outside for class for reading or whatever today, it's fun for the kids. Let's do those simple fun things that maybe isn't quite so heated, and at least have one thing to see if we can make it successful before like week 2 and everybody's home with some sort of sniffle from something. Thank you. I do appreciate all your work. I know you can't please everybody, but like we had a really good successful year last year. I'm just afraid that this is a big S-bomb that's just gonna go off in about 2 or 3 weeks. Okay. And I really need my kids out of my house, so I'm asking you please just get them at least.
So I guess one thing I want to understand, and I absolutely appreciate everybody speaking in the passion, and this isn't easy. But by having masks be optional, nobody's saying you can't wear a mask.
Okay, but last year when that came off with, I don't know, less than 12 hours notice, there were kids in other kids' faces sitting on them and breathing and saying, you're gonna get COVID from me. Which you didn't prevent last year. How is that not gonna happen again this year? To the 5 kids
We know that
inside.
any masking less than 100% is not effective.
Right.
We know that, that's just a fact, that's why health systems do universal masking for everybody that comes in. I do have one quick question, who on the board has children who are under 12 years old represented? I'm
I
intrigued.
got 10 grandchildren. Under 9.
I'm just intrigued because I think there's a segmentation that we should talk about of those that are vaccine eligible, that those are not. And I think that would be a reasonable accommodation as well when we think about, you know, things we could do for different populations. I think that would be a reasonable line to cut to say, hey, maybe there's more mitigation strategies for those that are not vaccine eligible. If they are vaccine eligible, I actually think it should loosen up because then it really is parental choice. But I, as a parent of 4 children under 12, do not have all the same choices that other parents do that have children over 12. So we're talking about retaining choice. I'd like to retain a choice or 2 of my own if possible.
I appreciate that, I get that side of it, but then the other side that was here in May, we're asking for a choice too. So when we voted to keep masks optional, we didn't say you couldn't wear it. And I know it might be hard to tell our kids to do certain things, but that's where the parenting comes in too, so.
Yeah, but you also let your guys' virtual options go with that. I think those parents that had that option, pull the kid out. Now we do not. Really.
I see that too, but
We gotta get to our board meeting, but what, last point.
I just wanted to talk about polio for a moment. Because, you know, there were outbreaks of that going on 100 years ago.
I have an aunt that,
But,
so it was less than 100 years, but they had one.
yeah, but Chicago's WBEC channel that was the foundation of it, was to do polio education. And it's one that maybe this would be less controversial if it were put in place into part of the strategic plan, just general, because this could be the flu, it could be polio. For all we know, we could have an measles outbreak. But maybe it just needs to be something thought through, have something in so that it's less heated. Because I spent the summer doing consulting and I've wound up in places where this is now considered personal protective equipment that will be sent home without it. And other places where, well, we got the doors open. So this seems like maybe right now it's heated, but we ought to take a step back and think, okay, viruses are never going to go away.
Okay. Now, I don't know, Jennifer, do you have the list of?
I'm pretty sure that anybody who signed up probably wanted to talk about.
Well, why don't you get the list and then we'll go through it.
Okay. We are gonna end this section of the meeting and we're gonna call this meeting to order. We have a flag in the back by Jennifer back there. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jim, are we good without the mic?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yep.
Good, okay. So this meeting has been posted in all the normal posting places. And now I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. We're on to approval of the minutes, and we have one meeting, the 21st of July.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of Monday, July 21st at 6 p.m. open session.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Then all in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried.
Someone has to vote.
What?
Someone has to vote.
I have to listen. That's the toughest part. No one said deny. Okay, we're on to the financial report and bill list.
Motion to approve voucher listing dated July 15th, 2021 through August 20th, 2021. Payroll check number 553800 through through 553801, the amount of $1,086.16. Check number 553802 through 553803, in the amount of $823.50. Check number 553804 through 553805, in the amount of $972.14. Direct deposits number 900054767 through 900054833, in the amount of $74,510.80. 900054834 through 900054888, the amount of $91,007.89. 900054889 through 900054949, the amount of $65,629.36. 900054950 through 900055004, in the amount of $83,723.48. 900055005 through 900055050, in the amount of $53,998.89. The last direct deposit of 900055051 through 900055105, in the amount of $93,024.13. Wire 202100013 through 200210053, the amount of $362,855.26. Total payroll of $827,630.62. Accounts payable, check number 54814 through 54857, $896,042.43. Wire 202100022 through 202100023, in the amount of $148.26. Wire transfer of 202100040 through 202100043, in the amount of $2,479.67. Credit card transaction 72021, in the amount of $55,915.92. ACH direct deposit number 212200001 through 212200021, the amount of $5,394.84, for total accounts payable of $959,981.12, for total disbursements of $1,787,611.74.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions for April? Any of this? Okay, all in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Now we're on to delegations to be heard. We have 4 people that checked that they'd like to speak before. I want to be very clear that when we're in this part of the meeting, this is the only chance for the audience to speak. When we get discussing the issues that are on the agenda, it's our meeting. So anybody that would like to address the board that's checked here, I'll give them 2 minutes to make a statement to the board, and then we will move on from delegations to be heard. So Jennifer Javel.
I'm good.
Is it W? You're
I'm
good? Okay. Sarah? And
Sarah
Tracy?
Wiesman, that's me.
Okay. Would you like to speak?
I would, I'll take my 2 minutes. Thanks.
Okay.
So a couple questions that we didn't really get to ask was, I didn't receive one, but was there a survey sent out at the end of last year asking for any feedback from the parents, the children, or the faculty on how they felt that year went, the the masking, the spacing, any changes due to COVID? And following that, was there any survey that went out to the children, the faculty, or the parents for this upcoming year to ask what their thoughts were, or hopes, or expectations, concerns on the upcoming year for the implementation of COVID procedures?
Do you want to answer that? Sure.
Yeah, no, we did not formally, all I can say, and again, I'm not gonna, just gonna lean on Becca and Jay from a staff standpoint, because they were the ones that were in the trenches with the staff and talking to them as they were beginning to continue to plan for this upcoming year. We didn't survey kids, we did not survey parents, like we did a year ago, or year plus ago, about, hey, what was the most important aspect that you wanted to continue on, whether it be social, emotional, and or academic. That's one of the big questions, and by far the biggest was continue the academic stuff. But we did not formally survey. To answer your question, the answer is no from a formal standpoint.
And my follow-up question would be, if the board is representative of the parents and the community, how is that data received if no data is ever taken?
I guess what I do is I kind of keep track of, you know, obviously kind of to mention, you can't please everybody. And I do keep track of, you know, who is angry with, not personally, I don't care who's, what people have from a personal stance on this at all, I really truly don't. But I do communicate to the board as it relates to the effect of our decision, or my recommendation to not mask. For instance, I've already informed them 9 individuals have decided not to come back to the Merton Community School District that was as of Friday, 9. Okay, so that's an individual data point. But to say formally, and then again, it's just kind of looking at Jay and Becca, from what I've heard, even Maria, from what I've heard, our staff is super, super excited about a normal school year. And they're excited again, obviously they're gonna do their soldiers, they wanna make sure that they take care of children and things like that. But again, to say we've had significant kickback from our staff, again, I haven't personally talked to anybody who had an issue with our plan moving forward about what it is. I know they're excited about the opportunity to have a normal start, which means they can do an instructional program and they can create their classroom the way they would really like to, the way they've been trained to, and what they've been looking forward to. But to say that I have any formal data to show you that, I don't, other than qualitative.
So after the May forum and today's forum, do you see any value in potentially surveying all of the parents so they all have the ability to speak? Because obviously, Ryan, you can't keep tabs maybe on an Excel of, oh, Sarah emailed me, oh, Jerry emailed me. But I mean, we're all probably in businesses that are data driven, and so it's just a little bit surprising and perhaps underwhelming that there wasn't ever a survey taken. So I did have the option to either publicly or anonymously voice how I feel. It's like, I don't like putting a target on my back for my children's staff, but I also want to teach them to speak up. If you feel passionately and you feel like this is the right thing to do, then you should speak of it. I don't like feeling like judged by my peers or my friends or my colleagues. So if I had that opportunity to disclose anonymously and then it all be pulled together where you come to find out like 50% of the people would have been okay with masks, or 75% of the population would have really liked spatial awareness in the classroom, but we don't even know if that's true. You know, I think sometimes we have these preconceived ideas of, oh, people are gonna hate it. And you come to find like, oh, it actually wasn't as bad as I anticipated. We just challenge the board in the future, if it's COVID related or not COVID related, to do the community members a service and actually survey them for the data that you're supposed to be representing from a community stance.
So just after the May meeting, I think it was close to 20 responses. Did you all get about 20 responses? It was about 2/3 of the responses to me came back thanking us for removing the mask and giving choice at that time. Now, we all got one email before, I think I got Sunday night, maybe, asking us to reconsider our position on masking and mitigation, social distance. We've gotten one.
So does Ron not share the emails that I know for certain myself and many of my peers here have sent to him? Does he not share that data with you? Because there would be more
No,
than
I'm just
one.
telling you what I received.
And I'm just asking a question.
I don't forward your email to the board.
Okay, so just
No,
so we're clear,
but
Dina,
he does, but in Ron's defense, he does say I've received, I tell them X number of emails this way, X number of emails.
I do,
this
I speak globally, not at the, I don't forward, Sarah, I wouldn't forward your email, Jennifer, I'm not gonna forward your email. If, and again, if people want to, and some people feel more comfortable, if it's just to me, I kind of, again, give a global update on how the decisions are affecting and what we hear. Because what I am finding out is people, and which is what we want, hey, we've had a conversation, let's have a conversation about it. And at any point, whether it's about COVID or if it's about how our reading program or whatever it might be, what's going on in lunch, we welcome that opportunity at any point. And maybe that could be something that we can look to the future and get a little bit more micro on some of the feedback. We do, do some staff surveys, and we do have we're building leadership teams and things like that to try to get the feel of our staff. And ultimately, we just want to do what's best. We really, really do.
So like I've received 3 emails.
In recent, well, there was 2, right? There was one this weekend that Dean was mentioning, there was one earlier.
In the last 3 months.
Okay, all right.
right, and so that's my fault, like, no.
No,
I
I
said I
I'm
it
just
to
sharing
Ron,
with
and
you
I just assumed, not that it's.
Sarah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just
No,
sharing with
I
you.
know, I just didn't.
We're
What
being
it
as
is,
transparent as we can.
That's it.
Yeah, no, I just was following up to your response, like, well, 20 people emailed you personally after a forum. Well, I've never emailed Lindsay or Katie or Phil, like, I've never emailed them individually. So they're not maybe like keeping tabs of it. So I just am saying, I would love to see a reasonable data source, free surveys. So then when people come to you with these questions, like, yeah, you know what, we surveyed 500 parents and 320 of them said this, and 105 of them said this, and 62 didn't respond. Okay, cool. Not Dean got 10 emails, Katie got 3, Ron got 1. It's like,
The only thing I was trying to illustrate is the sample size I was going on.
sure,
So
understood.
that was it. But, and I think that's a very reasonable ask. That is a very easy thing to do, just survey.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And we do appreciate people coming to the meeting and talking. 90% of our meetings, the only people in the audience are staff members.
Sarah.
I came for a while.
That's it.
And
So we do appreciate having people. Okay, Amber is the last one. Check, would you like to speak to us?
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Amber Welnetz, for those of you that don't know me. I'm an emergency medicine physician. I work 15 miles from Merton in Hartford. I have 3 children in Merton, all too young to yet receive the COVID vaccine. I am here today in the hopes that my experience as a physician in our community will help you to understand the current risks, not only to our children, but to our teachers and staff. I have intubated COVID patients, placing them on ventilators. I have pronounced them dead. I have admitted or transferred too many patients to count, all sick with COVID. In the last week, all of my COVID positive patients, except for one elderly patient with multiple other medical problems, have been unvaccinated. I admitted a 38-year-old with no past medical history, a 71-year-old, a 61-year-old, an 84-year-old, a 42-year-old, all requiring oxygen. I admitted a 30-year-old male with no past medical history who had a pneumothorax, meaning a collapsed lung, requiring a chest tube to be inserted in his chest wall. The damage the virus had done thus far to his lungs will be irreversible. This could be any of our teachers, this could be any of you if unvaccinated, and sadly, this could be any of our healthy children who don't have the option to be unvaccinated. I implore you to consider a mask mandate while we are currently in a COVID surge across our nation and in our Merton community and Waukesha community. This is my anecdotal evidence, but but if you look at the data as of August 26th, 4.7 million children in the US have been diagnosed with COVID, representing 14.8% of all cases. As of August 26th, over 100,000 children under the age of 19 years old have been diagnosed with COVID in the state of Wisconsin, accounting for 16.8% of cases. Data from the CDC through the end of July show that children under 10 years old who require hospitalization were more likely to require ICU level of care. This data is alarming. We know it is scientifically proven that mask mandates and vaccines are the most effective way to prevent children from acquiring and transmitting this devastating illness. Please, Merton board members, use your voice to protect our children and our community. The Merton School District was exemplary in its efforts to protect our children and our community for last school year. Please do not stop these mitigation factors.
Thank you. We are going to move, you didn't get any emails.
No, we're not doing that anymore.
I checked the box.
Justin, you are Justin. Gotcha.
So,
Sorry,
yeah, I was.
different color pen.
Yeah. So my only question is, will, kind of a contagion type, is that gonna be added into the new strategy, strategic plan? Because it'd be an opportune time to do that, and just knowing that this isn't going to be a one-off. There's too many other diseases going on.
These things happen, like with the Norwalk flu in the past where we shut the school down. It's been quite a few years, but these things have happened in the past. And we've had, at school board, we've had to deal with those kind of things. So it's, as you said before, we're gonna deal with this virus probably for the rest of our days.
So that no, it's not gonna be any sort of.
Well, I think that, I think what Ron had talked to us about, the data that he gets is what drives that. And it would be for everything.
It's currently not on our strategic plan, and I'm not sure it would become part of the district's mission, vision, or when we talk about viral mitigation. I don't, again, right now, I wouldn't see us put it in.
Indirectly in the.
When we talk about healthy children,
Right?
yeah, we talk about healthy children and healthy staff and things like that too as well, so it is there. But to have something very specific, when we start talking about, you need to talk about polio and measles and some of those other things.
I'm just pointing out that those are other viruses that are still active in this country.
Be brief, please. Brief.
I just have one question and one suggestion that I really feel like answering. My suggestion would be outdoor seating for kids to eat lunch. I don't know if that's possible, but I think that kids have the option to wear masks. They should have an option to space out during lunchtime and not be in the cafeteria. Lots of schools have the tables outside, and if that would be possible, I think that would be a great thing that we can do, because our kids who are wearing masks to school can't wear their masks when they're eating. And then my other question is there a reason that teachers who are not vaccinated are not required to wear masks?
I'm not asking whether they're vaccinated or not.
Why not?
Why not? As I feel it's their own personal choice.
Whatever happened to HIPAA laws?
It's not HIPAA. He's not a physician.
No.
You asked my
As an
child.
employer, I can't.
You asked my child if they're vaccinated for chickenpox before I send them to the school.
As an employer, I can't ask my employees medical issues.
Yes,
Yes, you can.
That's
I'm an
not
employer,
HIPAA.
yes, you can.
It's going through the courts, but it is our right if we choose to ask every person who comes through from a public health standpoint, it's during the pandemic, we do have the right to do so. I think it's a person's individual choice. We've given them the opportunity to mandate. We know that an unmasked, unvaccinated person from a spread standpoint, from what I see, the research shows there's no spread. Whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, spreading isn't a concern.
An unvaccinated, unmasked person, you're not concerned with spreading COVID?
No. Compared to an unmasked, vaccinated person.
Your question was about
No, that is not true.
Right, so But again, at this point, to answer your question, no, we are not asking. And I'm not, right now, unless the board tells me to find out who they are and to require, to your point in healthcare, require mask or require vaccination.
I'm not asking you to require vaccination, I'm asking you to
Or-
require an adult who can be vaccinated, who is not vaccinated, to wear a mask for the CDC guidelines.
I have not asked that.
Okay,
I have not asked that.
we are done with this portion of the meeting and we are moving on to the administrative report. We do not have any donations. Right?
No donations.
Then you're on personnel action.
Okay, we've got several personnel actions. We'd like to thank obviously our entire, in particular, Merton Primary Schools first and second grade staff for coming together and getting this all taken care of for us too, as well as our music department. We have a letter of resignation from Chris Losick. We'd like to thank her for her 28 years of teaching with the district. So we wish her the best of luck. You'll see her letter of resignation there. We also are recommending to replace Chris Losick, Jessica Dwyer, who comes to us from the Germantown School District with 1 year of experience. You'll see her contract. Elise Bly, we are recommending for the additional increase in students in first grade. She comes to us with 2 years of experience from MPS. And finally, to fill our music opening, we are recommending Caitlin Dora. And Caitlin comes to us with a few years of experience in the Watertown School District. So you'll see all of their individual letters of appointment or individual teacher contracts there. Finally, we have 4 letters of appointment that we would like to ask forward to the board for approval. Stephanie Schneck for 4K in primary supervision. Kim Grimes, special education, moved from part-time to full-time. Jennifer Newman, assisting us in the primary school special education and supervision. And finally, Brian Bassett in the area of special ed and supervision. So just looking for a motion to approve the letter of resignation from Chris Losick as presented. Another motion to approve the individual teaching contracts for Jessica Dwyer. I actually need to add that to the board. So presented Jessica Dwyer, Elise Bly, and Caitlin Dorr. As presented, and then finally the 4 letters of appointment for the individual state.
I'll make a motion to approve the letter of resignation of Chris Losick as presented, including making the $750 damage clause in our contract for 20 years of service. Well, we do them all as one. Also recommend we approve the individual teaching contract for Jessica Dwyer, Elise Blay, and Caitlin Dora as presented. And then we approve the letter of appointment for Kim Grimes, Stephanie Schneck, Brian Bassett, and Jennifer Newman as presented.
Okay, we have motion second. Is there any discussion on both the resignation and appointment and the teacher contracts? Then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion's carried. Okay, we're on to information from the district administrator.
Sure. School starts in 2 days. Super excited about that. Welcoming almost 900 children to our doors, through our doors come Wednesday. We have bus routes that are out, and our staff, again, earlier you guys heard from the student achievement side, all the work that we've been planning up to Legion this year. From a facility standpoint, we are ready to go at the intermediate school. We are short a few items that again, that will not affect the functionality of our school or impact our students in their day-to-day operations. It's more so behind the scenes things. Obviously, as you walk around, there's a few things we got to take care of, but the remodel is in the punch list phase. Again, just kind of awaiting some of the supply procurement from some of the areas that we still need to do some supply chain slowness. But other than that, we are all ready for almost 900 children to come walking through our doors on Wednesday. Very excited about it.
Okay, then we're on to new business. We have the CISA 1 contract.
Yep, typically we do this in May. Sorry, missed it. CISA reminded me to get it done for you guys. But each year we contract CISA for basic services. It'd be the school improvements, some curricular things, and just basically some general services that we work with CISA. If there's anything above and beyond that, we would come back with an additional contract with the board and with CISA. Last year, we contracted our speech and language long-term stuff, for instance. We contract there, but again, this is just a basic service for the district. And again, it's pretty much based on our enrollment for kids too as well. So just looking for the board to make a motion to approve the 21-22 CISA 1 contract as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2021-22 CISA 1 contract as presented.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, for discussion. All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Okay, we're on to item B in the new business school year. First day of school preparations and COVID update, mitigation, possible action if desired by the board.
So I guess if there are any questions of me, and we talked a lot, I'm trying to keep you guys in the loop regarding our steps as we enter September 1st.
You know, and I guess my takeaway from all of the commentary was really, it's just a bad user experience to not know how the decisions are being made. Right, I mean, the basic conclusion was, well, Ron makes the decision based on data from the county and those conversations that you're having. And then recommend something to the board, and the board, you know, at least majority of people that's gave rationale behind their reason, behind their decision making, you know, the board would go along with that. But that's still kind of a black box of, like, from a parent perspective, they just don't, I'm making this decision, right? But, so I just think from a parent experience perspective, that's probably not ideal. Maybe that's where a lot of, well, if you separate out whatever health concerns, right, whatever that is, like, I think a lot of the, or some of the angst is also just from, like, the unknown of, I don't even know how this decision is being made, let alone, like, if we have any spread or not, like, that's an unknown in itself. But then if we do, what happens? We'll get a letter, and then maybe we'll ask, maybe we'll social distance, maybe we'll have to close that whole classroom, maybe we'll close the school. Like, none of that's well defined. I think that probably is a lot of the things. That was mine.
Does the board want a firm metric?
I mean, I guess it would only, honestly, it would only be valuable if it would change anyone's mind and lead anyone to a different opinion, right?
Well, it's gonna change my mind. With the data that we see day to day locally will change my mind. I mean, I want to do what's best for everybody who comes walking through. Staff, students, families, and things like that. Phil, going back to my recommendation, again, it's the same conversation you have with other local superintendents. I want to give you guys information, the best information that I have. And I also want to make a great recommendation, the best recommendation I have at this moment, given the information that I have. Like I mentioned before, I do not have compelling information, compelling data to share with you that would reverse what you guys did in May.
And that's fine. I don't,
Right.
I mean, just so ideologically, I don't know that anyone has an issue with that. It's just a matter of, okay, what is compelling data, right? That's the missing information.
And that's where, I mean, I don't want to say, 50%, that's outrageous. But again, that's where I will continue to keep you guys up to date. If the board wants a hard and firm metric, I can put stuff forward to you guys. I certainly can. And then ultimately, we'd have another board meeting and we would discuss that. And then you guys would, take a look at it and say, well, too high, too low, or what would be the response from something, again, that would be very firm and very black and white. If that's the will of the board.
The only thing I think of is when we were doing it the other way in the fall last year, we asked what was the firm way to take off the mask. We didn't have that either. So it just seems like now we're gonna go the other way. We decided before to take off the mask by looking at what's in front of us. So I would say we want to still look at it that way, like what's in front of us.
Yeah, I think that So we decided to take off masks based on what's in front of us. What was in front of us was a year of social distancing and wearing a mask, and so, yeah, we didn't have a lot of spread. That makes sense, right? That tracks. So now we're gonna go into this school year without those measures in place. Maybe we still have no one get sick. That would be awesome. I would love that. But maybe some people do get sick, and so how many people is too many? I guess is really what it comes down to.
The only thing I'm saying is not the number. I'm saying we used black and white before, or we didn't use black and white. We used gray area before. So I think we probably should continue it the way we decided in the beginning.
Not sure that makes any sense.
The mask mandate at the beginning of the year was mandated by the state of Wisconsin. We had no options. There was no options until March. Say when March, late March, early April, we're more in there. Then it became, then you saw local decision going down to counties. You saw Milwaukee County, Dane County, you saw other counties put in a mask mandate. So then it would be, so Waukesha County came in and said there's a mask mandate. We wouldn't be having this conversation. Because then we're compelled with the mandate at the county level. So we've never had, but in April when it came off, you're right, again, I didn't have any compelling information to share with you guys that would make you change your mind or that I would change my recommendation from continuing the mask because of some of the steps that we've done, and we've had such a successful year as well there too as well. So I guess if it's the will of the board, I will gladly make and put some metrics together with the option A, B, or C, all the way from mandating, all the way from mandating, asking staff if they're vaccinated, if not, they have to mask up. Making volunteers who are unvaccinated or all volunteers masking up, mandating social distancing to 3 feet. Surveying families, about what their comfort level is or anything else like that too. So again, I can do whatever you guys want me to do. What the will of the board is.
When we put the mask on, because it was mandated, right? We put it on. My question was, when does it come off? I remember asking that.
You did.
Check.
You did.
Check it if you want. I asked, when did you take them off? Like, what, and we decided as a board to look at the data as it's in front of us, because then we can make the best decision based on that. So I would say that we should keep going that way. Did it one way, why one?
That we should keep looking at the data in front of us, you're saying.
Well, and we did look at what our parents were asking. That was definitely. We had a lot of parents come to us and say,
It was what, twice as full maybe, the room?
Twice as many emails.
Twice as many emails.
Well, yeah. So there were, twice as many people choosing to voice that opinion.
And anecdotally, your, walk around survey that next day was 75 to 85% of the kids weren't wearing masks that next day. And anecdotally, obviously, it's not a survey, but
I mean, I guess my personal opinion is it would probably be valuable to have those guidelines, public information. Whether that means they're hard and fast, hard guidelines of if 3 people in a classroom are out at the same time, then we're gonna do this, or if it's a little more gray, which, I guess anything's better than nothing, right? Like, I think it's okay to have some variability in these decisions. I don't know that it necessarily has to be an exact, trigger gate kind of situation, but having some guidelines and the direction of what you as an administrator and we as a board are thinking we're going to be doing over the course of the year would be valuable to parents.
so there's not a hard and fast metric, but there's a framework that Ron and JD and Becca are going to work on it from looking at it. So for instance, Ron writing down a plan and saying, we're going to look at these 3 or 4 or 10 data points. What's happening in our school, what's happening in the village and county, what's happening in the Arrowhead School District. Discussions with superintendents, and based upon those things, these are the steps we could take immediately. Which, and you could list those steps you could take immediately, which are masking a classroom. Going 6 feet, I mean, is that
I think that would be.
absence
reasonable.
a 15 or whatever the number is, but like
Yeah.
having these are the metrics we're gonna study and watch closely. These are all the mitigation things we could do. And at least have those written down to provide a visual roadmap.
Yeah, because I think honestly, the practicality of the matter is probably that there's too many combinations of situations that could happen that would lead you from one decision to another, right?
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be different if there's 2 kids in 2nd grade that are sick and 2 in kindergarten that are sick versus 2 in this classroom in 2nd grade and 2 in this classroom in 2nd grade that's next door, right? Like, you may handle that situation differently, even though it's 4 kids sick total, like that. So having it in more of a framework as opposed to hard and fast numbers, I think is a reasonable step. So some heads are not.
Are there some frameworks under that?
Because from you had previously, it sounds like that's already
Those conversations have happened.
are,
Yeah.
right.
So if you said, again, obviously you guys are gonna wanna take a look at them, our public's gonna wanna take a look at them. That doesn't mean if you said, Ron, a week from now, we want you ready with this information, what you guys were asking, which was, what data are you gonna be watched? And then kind of like our if that, to say, hey, what are some of those possible steps, specific steps that would occur if there were, say, 20% in one class, compared to a 1 and 1 and a 1, which represents less than 20, whatever it might be, if it's kind of a scattered thing too as well. Yeah.
I think that would help parents feel more comfortable. At least know what might happen.
You want to present something to us at a meeting before our annual meeting on the 13th?
Can do that. Depend, whatever the urgency is, whatever you'd like to see it as. The annual meeting is at 7 o'clock on the 13th, 14th, on the 14th.
14th.
Do it before that.
You want to do 6 o'clock?
Well, we've got a week this week with Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
3 days.
and a 4-day week the following week. There's a long weekend in there. I don't know if we're gonna get any.
Well, I wouldn't expect us to get any data by then in terms of what's happening in our school district, but I think by then, that's plenty of time for Ron to put together, this is the framework. I think that the plan is looking at this as the framework. Right?
That's why I suggested the night of the annual meeting. It's fairly close.
Yeah, I think that would work out well.
Okay, that's fine. Now, if we need to meet before that, we obviously will meet ahead of time if you guys.
Right.
Okay.
Is there anything else on that subject that we want to discuss? Then we're on to future meeting and agenda items. Our budget hearing ends at 7.
And we'll be coming to a board workshop, is that, again, there'll be a dialogue between the board, is that why you wanna post it as such?
Sure, then we're gonna do that, we're gonna do it at 6.
6 o'clock board workshop, okay, board workshop, okay,
And that's probably gonna be like, you present for a while and then we discuss and we can have community feedback as well.
you want me to post it that, as such?
Or is it
Possibly
just-
can.
I'm asking, what do we want to do?
We can do it that way. We'll probably have stricter, if we do have a block of time that we're trying to get done.
Yeah.
I probably have stricter rules on our secrecy.
Yeah, but to Phil, to your point, it would be a presentation, board feedback, and then community feedback. Yep. Okay.
So is that going to be a possible action?
It would be
Or
at
the
the end
27th?
for the 27th, I posted as,
Or would it be something that you would just post right away?
I post for something on the 14th. I would post it as, there would be to start at the workshop.
No, I mean the information for people.
Oh, the information for people, oh, that'll be posted well in advance, because it's a Tuesday night, right? I'll have that to the board for you guys to take a look at, and I can share that with the community on Friday, by Friday. The 10th. Is that what you're asking, Katie? So it's just not the first
Well,
time
and
you
then
guys
after
see
we
it?
just, right, so it's not the first time we see it, then after we discuss it, are we looking for a consensus? And then will that same information be posted on our website so people can access it?
Yep. Depends, it could be, Ron, take it back and redo it. I mean, it could be that too as well, but I can post for possible action during that time. You know, you've got your workshop, or it could just be administrative
Or maybe
direction.
What's the
that's-
action gonna be though?
So maybe
I
just,
don't know,
Because it's just, right, I mean, it's not
You could be
it's not a
directed.
policy from the board level,
No,
really.
because if that, unless if at the time there could be possible discussion for universal masking, then obviously I would post it as an agenda item, an action item, possible action item. So, but yeah, we can work through that, but most of it, to your point, is outside of universal masking, these mitigation steps are administrative.
Yeah,
Rule.
yeah, there won't be more information. Well, most likely, there won't be any more local school data by then anyway.
Not necessarily, we'll see. We'll see.
Okay, the 27th is our normal monthly meeting. We're gonna do the same, open forum session, start it.
Yep.
Okay. And then, looking at the 25th of October.
Yep, for monthly meeting again. And again, we'll just start at 6 o'clock, because we had some other business we were taking care of before. That's why we started at 6:30.
Any agenda items?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll start.
The motion is second, all in favor, then say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Meeting is adjourned.